everyone. I'm Kareem Ray, your host at the One Soccer Nation podcast. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Alexander Rojas. Alexander is an attorney, sports lawyer, and civil litigation at 118 Law. Alexander, thank you so much for taking the time today. How's it going?
Hey, Kareem. How are you? It's good to see you again. Thank you for the invitation. Very excited to be here with you.
Absolutely. So you're actually going to be the first sports lawyer that I have on the podcast. So super cool.
Awesome.
We met first on Instagram. And then after that was down last month in November at SoccerX in Miami. We got to connect in person. So I'm going to drop a little image here in the video. But yeah, it was great to connect with you at SoccerX. Just want to ask you a quick question. What were your thoughts about the event?
It was great. It's I think it's my third time going to the event. It was great. It was great. It's good to reconnect with different, industry leaders in soccer and other lawyers, other people involved in the business. It's a really, really good event. It was, of course, great to finally connect with you in person, which is always different and better than just online, coming full circle. So I thought it was a very good event. I'm looking forward to the next one, actually.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we connected too and got to meet in person. You actually went to another one too. I think it's called Copa America, where you met Rondinho, or?
Yeah, I was invited to the draw for the Copa America, which is going to take place in June of 2024. So yeah, that was exciting. That was definitely a highlight, at least for me. Growing up, I mean, I always watch this game, so being able to approach him and take a picture with him was, I could say, a dream come true. Still not, the picture with Messi, but it's pretty high up there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, he did play with Messi, so that was super cool to see. Are there any upcoming events that you're excited to go to as well, or are you just taking a break from attending to events?
No, actually, in the next 2 months, in the beginning of February, I have an invitation from FIFA for their football law annual review, which is basically where they get together, mostly attorneys, and they go over the law, football law, and any new trends and new cases and new developments and everything that's going to be happening at FIFA for the upcoming year. And it's going to take place in Tokyo, which I'm very excited. I've never been there. So it's definitely going to be a very, very good opportunity to visit a different, continent and be able to, share more with other lawyers, other football lawyers as well. And actually, it's my first event where I'm being invited, from FIFA. So I'm very excited to attend. It's going to be great.
Nice. Yeah, FIFA is just one of those big names that a lot of people care about, but don't know too much about it. And to hear that you're getting invited to that event, that's amazing. And I'll be looking forward to seeing those pictures and hearing more about Tokyo and FIFA. One of my favorite questions to ask is if you could just take us back in time and just share how you got involved in the beautiful game, like your first memory, and then just a little bit of a story of how you got to where you are today as a sports lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, I've always soccer or football. It's always been part of my life. I was born and raised in Peru, so obviously it's a national sport, just as any other country where football is a primary sport. So I grew up playing it just across the street on the parks, on the road. I play high school soccer. I played some club soccer. Didn't get to any professional or any other team like that, but I was always involved in soccer, and it was a very big part of my life. And so from there, I always wanted to be an attorney. I knew I wanted to be an attorney. Initially, what most people don't know is I was involved in the music business. I was actually a recording engineer in New York and in Peru, and so I did a lot of that. I was always involved on the business side, and that was kind of my goal: get involved in the business side. Entertainment and sports was really what drew me, towards that industry as far as the law is concerned. And from once I graduated from law school, um, I went into criminal defense for about 3 years. And so that helped me in developing litigation skills and how to be a lawyer in the courtroom. It was an amazing experience. And then I moved on into the civil world, the civil litigation. And it was then when I started getting connected with representing players, um, networking. In the beginning, it wasn't strictly related to football, it was more related to any legal matters that they needed help with. But that developed into, hey, I have this situation at the club where I have this contract. What do I do? Can you help me? And that's basically how I started getting more into it, little by little, and then the doors kept opening up, and just making the business grow that way, and making more connections. And this industry is very small. uh, it's all really about connections and networking. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, 100%. Who you know. In regards to being a sports lawyer, do you specifically focus only on the soccer industry in the U.S.?
I focus as far as the sports law area of the practice. So we have two areas of practice: one civil litigation, and the other one sports law. In the sports law, I mean, I really should name it football law, but I don't. But strictly, all the cases that I deal with on the sports law side are football related, soccer related, and it's not just in the U.S. It could be anywhere in the world, really. Um, it's there are two different areas where you can approach this. There's transactional matters, and there's litigation matters. And so the transactional matters are more a dealing with contracts, dealing with negotiations, dealing with sponsorships, image rights, anything related to contracts, let's say, and anything related to negotiations. And then on the litigation side is more on the arbitration side. Everything that happens in sports is really based on arbitration. So, for example, if a player or a coach they get any disciplinary hearing, or club is not paying a player, then everything gets resolved through arbitration. And again, I usually have different cases, not just in the U.S. Obviously, I live in the U.S. and that's my primary area where I practice. But I also have um, done in cases outside of the U.S. and I still have cases outside of the U.S. I'm trying to get more into the European market, which is really the bread and butter of sports law, specifically with football, soccer.
So how do you plan to break into Europe? And what enables you to work internationally in regards to, how is that possible?
Well, what happens is in football law and soccer, it's very specific. It's different than any other sports. As you know, FIFA has its own statutes, policies, and regulations. So basically, anytime there is an international um, transaction where you have a player from country A going into country B, then you know that FIFA statutes and regulations and policies are going to apply. And so, because of that, it allows the player or coach or club or any entity, any of those entities, they're allowed to have representation. It doesn't matter where they're from because it's an international forum. So FIFA, Court of Arbitration for Sports, is not a specific jurisdiction. You can be from the U.S. and having a case against a club in Brazil, and you both are going to go into international waters, basically. So you sort of need to have some understanding of international law, and that allows you to basically, as far as you're being a lawyer, allows you to practice or represent your client in front of different arbitration panels and arbitration courts that are not necessarily located just in the U.S., if that makes any sense.
Understood. When following FIFA's rules, laws, and regulations, would that be the only governing body that you would have to follow in regards to international transfers between country A to country B? Or do you also have, let's say, you're getting a player from Spain to the U.S., would you also have to follow U.S. Rules, laws, and regulations as well?
Yeah, national law is always going to come into place.
Okay.
You always have to that. So if it's vice versa, for example, and it's a player from the U.S. going to a different country, you would always want to consult with an attorney that is licensed in that country because you want to be aware of different laws at the national level, and not only different laws, but taxation issues, which are extremely important, especially for any professional player going abroad and wanting to know what is their tax liability, how is that going to look like when they're abroad, and what is their liability not only in the U.S. but since they're moving to a different country. So yeah, it's very important to have some knowledge. Obviously, if you're not well versed, you're going to have to consult and partner up with an attorney that it's more experienced and actually more experienced in the sense that they know that specific market.
Understood. If you would like to share, you don't have to. But in regards to going into the European market, that's where the real funds are, the real money. Um, what is your plan to get into Europe? If you would like to share, if not, I can move on to the next question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, like I said, it's about networking. A few years ago, I did a master's in international sports law at a school called ISDE, which is located in Spain, in Madrid. So that basically allowed me to expand my network into Europe. Um, there were a ton of different lawyers from different countries. And so I've been able to expand my network that way. And in reality, the way it would work is what I would like to see and how to make it grow is basically make those connections stronger so that if they have a matter here in the US, I'm able to assist, and then vice versa. So basically, sort of a collaboration and a partnership with different lawyers, and that has allowed me to make more connections. Currently, at the end of April, I also have an invitation for Barcelona at a event called IFAM, which is an arbitration moot for football soccer, where law students from all over the world basically compete in an arbitration case, similar to as if they were in front of the court of arbitration for sports. So I'm going to be acting as an arbitrator. They have to submit written briefs, and it's going to be oral arguments. So it's going to be a very nice event. So that also allows me to put my name out there and establish those connections that are going to allow me to continue growing the practice here and abroad.
Amazing. Can you share some highlights from your experience at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office and how it shaped your skills as a litigator?
Yeah, I think it was a humbling experience because it allowed me to represent different people. There were people who were charged with, from misdemeanors to felonies punishable by life. So it was definitely an eye opener as far as being able to proudly represent those people who a lot of times don't have the resources to hire an attorney, and they're not perhaps given the same treatment that they deserve. So that basically allowed me to um, be a better lawyer in a sense that I was able to be more compassionate towards people. You don't have to like all the clients, but you do have to treat them with respect, and you have to treat them the way they deserved, to be treated under the circumstances. So that was really, like I said, a humbling experience. And as far as how did that help me in the courtroom? From day one, you're basically thrown in the courtroom, and you're in the courtroom day in and day out. You may not have a lot of experience in the courtroom. Unfortunately, law school doesn't really teach you a lot of courtroom skills. There are classes that you can take. You can participate in mock trial teams, moot court teams, which is like appellate court, but it's not enough to show you how to act in the courtroom. So it really helped you to act on your feet and how to think on your feet, how to conduct yourself in the courtroom, how to try a case, how to speak to juries, how to speak to opposing counsel, how to speak to the judges, how to handle procedures, and how to handle pressure. Really, because it's a lot of pressure. It's different stakes. We're talking about someone's life and liberty. So it's completely different than handling a contract and a transaction or an arbitration for um, for a clause or a club that is not getting paid. It's a completely night and day. But I think they have helped me to shape my skills, not only for arbitration proceedings but in negotiations and being able to interact with different people. I think it was a really good experience.
What do you enjoy more, the battle on the court, or being on at the desk working on contracts?
Uh, I think I like a combination of both. There's a time where you definitely have to fight for your client, and the courtroom is a place to do it. And there's other times where that downtime of being on the desk and going through a contract and preparing the best deal for your client also is important. So I think it's a combination of both, in my experience at least.
Got it. As a valedictorian in your class at uh, Institute, I'm going to try my best to pronounce this. You're going to have to come in and say this. Institutio Superior di Derecho y Economía, so
Yeah.
ISDE in Madrid, Spain. Can you tell us about the key takeaways from your master's in international sports law that have been instrumental in your sports law career?
Yeah, that was also a very, very important, I think, stage in my life. Um, Really great experience. I was able to meet different attorneys from, like I said, different countries. It was able to, I was able to experience what it's like to be a lawyer in different countries, and being able to compare what it's like to be a lawyer in I don't know, Portugal versus the U.S., for example, or in Africa versus in the U.S. So it's an eye opening as to how similar, but at the same time, how different being a lawyer in different countries is. Uh, but uh, the main takeaway that I had from that experience is it taught me what being a sports lawyer is like, and what's important from being a sports lawyer, and the impact that you can have on your client. If it's a player, coach, or a club. Um, it's really it's an experience that enriched me. It's a funny story also because I was not expecting that award. We had actually, I went with my family for the graduation, and I had just landed from the airport, so we were jet lagged. I was kind of falling asleep at the time that they mentioned my name for the award. So I kind of heard my name, and somebody had to elbow me to tell me, "Hey, you just won, top of the class." So I couldn't believe it at the time. It was a really funny story. I was walking up, the stage, kind of half asleep and trying to understand what was going on. Nobody get that I was going to win that award. So it was really neat. I mean, I put a lot of time into it. You basically had to do the classes online, but you also had to go 3 times in person. And it was 2 days of classes, basically all day long, with different professors from FIFA, from the Court of Arbitration for Sports, from different law firms from all over the world. So that also broadened my network of different colleagues and different attorneys, and different doors that opened for me. So it was a really, really good experience.
Congratulations to you for all the success that you've had this far. What has
Thanks.
been your favorite country to be a lawyer in,
Hmm.
or at least experience-wise in the courts and so on and so forth?
Well, honestly, now with Zoom, you can be anywhere. So I still think the U.S. is one of the greatest, court systems in the world. I'm going to stick with the U.S. on this one, only because I can't appear really in regular courts. Like I said, arbitration is more of an international waters, so it's really not a courtroom. It just allows you to handle the cases on international waters, if that makes any sense. But as far as a courtroom, I mean, I'm licensed only in the U.S., in Florida and Texas, so I can only appear in either one of those jurisdictions. Um, so I'm gonna stick with the U.S. for now. I mean, I would love to actually even witness what it's like to handle a case in England, London, the UK. So hopefully one day I get to witness that.
Soon, soon. Given your specialization in legal and transactional matters in football or soccer, What inspired you to pursue this niche within sports law, and how do you see the landscape evolving in the coming years?
Man, like I said, football and soccer have always been part of my life. I mean, I don't know any other sport that I feel more passionate about. That's really my sport. So that's really where it comes from. As far as how I see this area growing, um, I think we have so many events coming up right now in the U.S. And I think it's going to explode here in the U.S. We have the Gold Cup, actually. I think it's in March, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Don't quote me. But I think we have the Gold Cup coming up. Then you have Copa America in the summer. Then you have the FIFA World Cup 2025. Then we have the World Cup in 2026. I think we have the Women's World Cup in 2027. Hopefully, they give it to the U.S. I think it's U.S. and Mexico that are bidding on it. And then I think the Olympics in 2028. So I think for the next 5 years, football and soccer are going to grow tremendously in the U.S. Hopefully, it becomes the number one sport. And that's really what I hope. So, but we still have to compete against the monsters of NFL, MLB, and NBA, and hockey, of course. But I'm hoping that it grows in the next 5 years tremendously.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of push happening right now in the U.S. for soccer to move up the rankings. All the events that you mentioned, these are big waves to catch, and everyone's trying to set up shop in regards to people that are not in yet for professional club owners. So yeah, just a super exciting time. I was just saying the other day on a call, I was just like, um, I can't believe I'm alive to see a World Cup being hosted, in Canada, U.S., and Mexico. These are, I go back and forth between Canada and the U.S. a lot, so it's so exciting. And I hope to attend and not only attend but be a part of these events and catch this big wave in an impactful way. So super excited.
Yeah,
One,
I don't know if we talked about this at Soccer X, but about the USL Super League, the Women's League. I don't know if you saw, but today they announced a new team here in West Palm Beach as well. So we have West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, and Jacksonville in Florida. That's amazing. It's four professional teams on the women's side, so that's going to explode as well. I'm very excited about that as well.
yeah, I've heard talks in regards to the women's being a $1 billion industry. That was actually with a conversation with Richard Albert. He's from he works with the UK government. He's head of capital. I forgot the exact title, but he basically helps facilitate capital from North America down to the UK. So he was saying it's a $1 billion industry, and I've heard a few more people say that it's going to boom. So especially in the US too. So I think. What are your thoughts? Do you think people getting in now are getting at the ground floor for women's investments within soccer, women's soccer ownership?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's what it looks like where it's going. I don't know what expansion plans NWSL has in Florida specifically. We know that Inter Miami was hinted at one point, which I think will be a great market for them. And then you also have the kind of head-to-head competition right now between USL and NWSL, USL Super League, that is. Which one are they going to be the same first division, or one is going to be first division and the other one is going to be second division? Which I don't know how that's going to play out, but for sure the market is opening, which is good. I mean, it seems to me like the fact that they're adding so many teams in one region, they're trying to capitalize on small markets at a time so that they can make it grow that way. Um, Definitely exciting times. I think women's soccer needs to grow. It doesn't have the same opportunities as the men's soccer. It does have a lot to show as well, and I think it's going to help growing the business also for the younger generation, which they're going to have more opportunities. Which I think at this time you only have club soccer, and then the lucky ones get to play in college, but you don't hear about professional clubs on the women's side that are just ready to get these players on board or develop them. like they do on the men's side. So it's definitely exciting times.
Yeah, so much growth opportunity on both men's and women's. So super exciting. I was just listening to a podcast of Justin Papadotsky from USL. Um, they're in conversations for 50 expansions, and as you mentioned, West Palm being a new expansion that just popped up. I got to read up on it. USL is moving pretty fast with their expansion, really
It
fast.
is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Uh, and going back to 118 law, is described as an offensive line in seeking equitable justice. How do you incorporate this philosophy into your legal practice, particularly in the fields of sports law and civil litigation?
Yeah. I mean, there's different matters at stake, right? And civil litigation is mostly about the money. So you want to make sure that your client gets a fair end of the deal in whatever area it is. Usually on the sole litigation, we have matters involving insurance disputes, personal injury matters. We also have trademarks that we deal with. And then on the football side, it depends on what it is. There's so many different things going on. It could be a player signing its first professional contract, player renewing their contract, player moving into a different club and a transfer agreement, a player looking for a sponsor, a player having to deal with their image rights. So the bottom line for me is making sure that there's a balance where my client is one being heard and what they want to accomplish in whatever matter it is, it actually results in a successful transaction for them, where they're not only satisfied with what I've done for them, but they feel that what they wanted to accomplish has actually taken place.
Absolutely. 118 law vision is to set a new standard and seek equitable justice. Can you elaborate on specific initiatives or strategies your firm employs to achieve this vision within the realms of sports law and civil litigation?
Yeah, I think communication. You often hear a lot about attorneys not being accessible or not having direct communication with their clients. I make sure that all my clients have my cell phone. They can text me and call me at any time, day, night, weekends, holidays. I always try to make myself accessible to them because they are using my services. So I want to make sure they understand that I'm on their corner. They can count on me at any time that they need me. So I'm always available for my clients. I think that's my number one priority to make sure that I can accomplish my vision in the company. Really.
Got it. Yeah, that's really good to be able to have access to you whenever they need it. That's so important. In the evolving landscape of media rights and intellectual property in sports, what are some key legal considerations that athletes and clubs should be aware of? And how do you guide your clients through these issues?
Yeah, it's very important, especially in players that have a lot of that have developed their brand. It's your asset basically. Your brand is an asset. It's important that you're protected and you understand what that means. What it means that your image is an asset, that is a brand, that you have to develop it, that you have to work it, that you basically have to put your name out there. A lot of players, I feel like they don't really understand the value of their image. Um, and I think clubs do understand that. There's a lot of different contracts where you're basically the players are asked to give away their image rights to the club, and so that the club can basically use that image to their advantage. And so I think a, a good understanding of why your image is important, it's absolutely necessary. You don't want to give out those rights. You want to make sure that you have some control over them because, like I said, it's an asset. It's no different than an artist writing a song and then being able to control what happens to that song in the future, right? Owning the rights of that song. It's basically the same. It's your image is who you are. It's your name. It's your image. It's your likeness. It should belong only to you. You shouldn't be giving it away. or there's different ways of entering into partnerships where you're given a license, so that way you're still retaining your rights, but not giving them away completely, where you don't have any more control of that. And unfortunately, in this business, it does happen. So yeah, it's important to always have good advice, good legal advice, a good team that are going to be able to fight for you and negotiate the best deal for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, that is important, and yeah, that's a great that is great information right there in regards for a player aspect. I think more players need to be aware of that. Um, and I want to kind of share something with you a little bit quickly here. When I started doing podcasting, I didn't even know, like we're using image and likeness, and then further along the journey, I was like, wow, we are using other people's images and name and likeness, their names, their image, stuff like this. And I was like, okay, I got to be more um, intentional and more, um, better communication in regards to, uh, you know, what is this transaction that we're having here? What are the expectations, and how are they being used? And it's been such an amazing experience. We're not a club yet, but doing media, this is something that I've experienced, and it's a responsibility for sure. And no, that's really cool to hear. Um,
Yeah, and also, I mean, now we have social media. You have so many social media platforms that uh, I think every player. I mean, we're talking about soccer, but and it applies to any other industry. But since we're talking about soccer, I think all players should trademark their brand and exploit their brand in social media. There's more to being a soccer player than just kicking the ball. You're more than just a soccer player, so you need to showcase that and you know put more emphasis and work on that. This is a short career. It's I think on average is about 8 years long. It's not a lot. It's not a long career. So you need to be thinking about other ways of monetizing your brand and what you stand for.
yeah, we got to talk about some stuff offline for on Soccer Nation
Good.
trademarks and stuff like that. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. I feel like because I was a player myself from grassroots to semi-pro levels, that as a player, I feel like a lot of these their priority is just playing and being the best player they could be. Everything off the field sometimes for these
Yeah.
guys it doesn't exist. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. Beyond your legal career, you mentioned your love for attending sports events. How do you personally how does your personal interest and experiences outside of the legal realm influence your approach to representing clients in the sporting industry? Well, specifically soccer.
Yeah. I mean, as far as sports law, football law, everything I do revolves around soccer. I mean, that's really my bread and butter. On the sports law side, I love going to games. Um, it's been such an incredible experience to witness different games in different countries. Um, by far, one of my best experiences has been attending a Premier League game for the first time, which was maybe a couple of years ago. I was able to attend Fulham against Man U. Never gonna forget that experience. It's completely different than the U.S. And I've attended games also Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and not even those compared to the Premier League game. It's
Wow.
just amazing the vibe, the environment, the energy that you feel in the game is completely different than the what happens here in the U.S. It's hard to describe. I mean, I think it's better if you're able to, you gotta experience it. And this happened even at Fulham Stadium, which it's not a big stadium, so I can only imagine going to like Old Trafford or Liverpool Stadium or Man City or Chelsea or where we have hardcore supporters. It has to be even better than what I experienced.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no, I totally I felt that feeling too. I've been to an Everton and Arsenal game. That was super.
there you
But yeah, we gotta go to a game, man. One day, Liverpool or something. We gotta
go.
go watch a game. We're seeing the Messi effect happen down in Florida. Like, what
Oh,
are
yeah.
your thoughts on Messi being in the U.S. and how do you feel about it?
It's amazing. I think it's. I mean, for me at least, is one of the best players in the world. Um, So being able to have him here in our backyard, it's been incredible. I've been able to see how people have gotten excited over the sport from one day to another, and you can hear people talking. I saw Messi on the weekend here. I saw him over there, and all the commotion and the splash that he's getting. Um, I'm hoping that he can actually make some change into the way the U.S. approaches soccer, in the sense that he can instill that passion for the sport, and kind of separate the sport from the entertainment side. I mean, most of the sport in the U.S. is sport and entertainment, and mostly sportainment, right? Uh, but if you go to a different country, it's more about the sport, and the entertainment comes secondary. I think obviously a game is going to be entertainment, but the main focus is the sport. The entertainment just comes with it, but it's not really exploited to the way that it happens here in the U.S. in MLS. So man, it's really grown so much. It's amazing. I think it started when Beckham came, right? And then it kind of grew MLS, and now who knows what the Messi effect is going to be in the US. I mean, we can only wait, for the next couple of years and see what kind of changes he's going to have in MLS and in the US. But as far as Miami, I mean, people are going crazy over him.
I mean, yeah, I'm even bringing him up in every podcast towards the end. Two things I always end off with: Messi. What are your thoughts on Messi? And what do you think about 2026 World Cup? Those are the two things. So super
Yeah,
cool.
hopefully he makes it. Hopefully he gets to play the World Cup. I mean, I'm hoping he doesn't retire before that,
Yeah,
But I think that he's got probably a little bit more gas in the tank for that. One last run.
yeah. I'm not too sure if you've seen, but he was actually watching a UPSL game. I seen it on social media, so I don't know if it's true. But going out to a UPSL game, talking to some of the coaches. I'm not too sure if you've seen that down in.
No, I haven't seen.
Okay,
Probably. I mean, I know his son plays. His son plays in the U12 team,
okay.
so he's very involved. He actually goes to the games. I actually think they have a tournament today at Inter Miami facilities, like a youth tournament.
Yeah,
So I think for sure he's going to be there. It's his son playing, so
yeah.
I'm sure it's going to make a very tournament, and it's going to make a bunch of kids very excited to see him there live.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was awesome. Was there anything that I missed that you wanted to add in, or
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot. It's been fun. Hopefully, we get to talk more in the future about more things, related to the sport. I know you have some projects going on too, so definitely would like to know more about that, and see how we can collaborate and make this work.
absolutely? Well, Alexander, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast today.
All right, Kareem, great seeing you, man.